Hello, broadcasting students. We're going to jump into our next unit. Just a couple of things here as we continue on with our remote learning for the rest of the school year. For our broadcasting class, we have 2 more units. This unit here, which you'll see a short intro to in a second, I'll show you the opening PowerPoint, just our introduction slides. Then you'll be on your own to take the notes for the first couple of days this week. So this unit coming up, and then our final unit will be more towards early and mid-May. And so we're kind of wrapping things up, and we will stay on pace even though we're on this remote learning. We'll be able to finish all the units we would have if I'd been seeing you on a face-to-face basis in the classroom. So I'll be posting, as always, the PowerPoint attachments. You'll be doing a couple of days of notes this week. There'll be 3 assignments, everything due by midnight on Friday. Again, I'm going Monday to Friday, so hopefully that helps you kind of be able to space things out at your own pace. And here comes our unit intro. Okay, we're going to move along now to our little unit preview. You'll see right up front here, no notes. So this is your opportunity to hear me talk a little bit about some of these themes that we're going to cover over the next 3 weeks here, so that you're ready for that end of the unit assessment. And then you'll be obviously doing the notes on your own. So this next unit, we cover the 1980s and the 1990s. Also, the 1980s was kind of the arrival and popularity of late night television. There wasn't a lot of TV on in late night format. There was the Tonight Show, which started, to gain in popularity way back in the early 1960s. Johnny Carson hosted that program for 30 years, but the networks kind of went dry at night. In my day, you'll find this hard to believe, but sometimes at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, some of the networks threw up their logo, their color bar logo, and you didn't get to see any actual TV much late at night if you were a night owl. So we'll talk about the growth and competition of late night television. You'll see some of that in the notes that you're going to be taking. The movie network, because we're in the remote learning, we probably will not be getting to that movie, so I'm going to gloss over that. So we'll be looking at the television during the 1980s. The 1980s was known as the decade of greed. We had Ronald Reagan, conservative president, who won back-to-back landslide elections, and he came in with things like deregulation, helped big business flow. It led to people making a lot of money in the 1980s. There was a growth in wealth during that decade. He loosened up the rules for TV, which led to the 1984 Cable Act. You might recall we talked about that, and the expansion of cable television. Some people, criticized the 80s. They called the 80s kind of bland. We'll look during this unit at the late night soap operas, and people thought that those shows were kind of corny and cheesy for television. Some of the good comedies included Cheers, The Cosby Show. The Cosby Show will show up in a slide or two. Obviously, if you know anything about Bill Cosby recently, he's gotten himself in some trouble. But his program was kind of groundbreaking at the time in the 1980s. It brought us the African-American couple that was depicted as well off. Cosby had to argue with the network to get creative control of the Cosby Show, and he insisted that they get to play the role of a doctor and a lawyer respectively on the program. So they were upper crust African Americans. You might think about the Jeffersons that Norman Lear brought us a decade prior, and then people took a great interest in news on TV. So the program 60 Minutes really took off in the ratings, and it was a regular top 10 show during the decade. As I alluded to, we'll talk about the growth of late night television. Right up front here in this first week, you'll be doing some notes on your own time on late night TV. David Letterman, who came along in the 80s, kind of brought us some innovation and change. You'll look at a couple of his clips, and weird things he did on late night television. And then, Letterman thought he would get to take over for Johnny Carson in the NBC late night slot. And when Carson retired, the network instead went with Jay Leno. And so it led to big late night battles, because then CBS brought Letterman over to go head to head with Leno. It was a big, big deal in the TV tabloids. That was kind of more early 90s when that happened. And Letterman did well in the ratings against Leno. NBC chose Leno because they thought he was kind of more mid-America looking. Letterman, they thought, looked kind of awkward. It was, in their mind, maybe not the right model for late night TV. So you'll see some of that in the notes. 1990s TV, a bit later in the unit. We'll talk about Seinfeld and, the arrival of reality TV. By the way, our final project towards the final week of the school year will be about reality television. You're going to get to work remotely in groups and make Google slideshows for me. We'll talk about that a bit, more towards the next unit. But, kind of pay attention when we get to the reality TV part. The arrival of, real human beings, not actors and actresses, doing stuff at home that we, the viewers, find kind of interesting. Of course, Seinfeld, groundbreaking. A lot of publications have named Seinfeld as the top television show of all time because of the crisp writing and the unique characters. So we'll get into that a bit. X-Files, for you Twilight Zone fans. You may also be fans of the X-Files, kind of a interesting show about FBI agents who investigated the paranormal and UFO activity, etc. And then, of course, a great 1990s drama in Law and Order. And then just looking way ahead, as we get towards, early May, our final unit in about 3 weeks' time, we'll look at news on TV, sports television, kids TV, and then we end the school year with the internet and our big project. So I'm not going to have like a take-home final. Instead, we'll have a work-at-home final project that will be your final exam grade. Okay, so do the couple of days of notes, the 2 PowerPoint attachments. There'll be questions with each slideshow. There's also a web quest, so 3 assignments this week. Again, we're sticking with the same point plan, so each assignment's worth 20 points, 60 total points for the assignment work. And then you're also going to submit the 2 days of notes as a separate assignment. The notes being 10 points each day. That will be 20 points entered in the notes category. The unit test assessments are in. So, check your grade on School Loop. Keep plugging along with the work. Have a great week. And stay healthy out there, broadcasting students.